Communication. Without communication, managers could not manage, employees could not collaborate, and decisions would never get made. Communication is the glue that holds organizations together. Also, it is related to higher levels of employee engagement, which are related to higher shareholder return and increased market value. To be effective leaders, managers must have good communication skills, particularly during tough economic times. You have to communicate like you've never communicated before. People must feel the excitement of tomorrow instead of the pain of today. You can only accomplish this by talking honestly about both, said GE CEO Jack Welch. Communication is critical to employee motivation. The communication process. Communication is the process of transmitting information from one person to another to create understanding and feeling. The word communication comes from the Latin word communicare, meaning to share or make common. There are 6 parts of the communication process. Encoding, when the message sender converts a thought, idea, or fact into a message. The message, the encoded information being sent. The channel, the medium used to send the message. Decoding, the interpretation and translation of the message. Feedback, a check on the success of the communication. And noise, anything that blocks, distorts, or changes in any way the message the sender intended to communicate. Nonverbal communication. The way we communicate, our nonverbal behaviors and vocal tone, is more important to a message's meaning than the words we actually say. Nonverbal communications are not spoken or written. Some of the strongest and most meaningful nonverbal communications, a fire alarm, a smile, an emoticon, a red traffic light, or a look of anger on someone's face. A part of nonverbal communication is body language, which is a body movement, gesture, or expression that conveys information to others. Research suggests in a typical face-to-face communication exchange, 7% is conveyed by the words, 38% is conveyed by vocal intonation, and 55% is conveyed by facial and body expressions. For effective and meaningful communication, all 3 parts of the message need to be congruent. Consciously controlling your body language is as important a managerial skill as knowing how to interpret others' body language. Another part of nonverbal communication is verbal intonation, the emphasis given to spoken words or phrases. Remember the saying, it's not what you say that matters, but how you say it. Receivers are more likely to interpret your body language as the true meaning when it's inconsistent with the spoken message. One-way and two-way communication. In one-way communication, information flows in one direction without expecting or getting any feedback. In two-way communication, the receiver provides feedback to the sender. This enhances the effectiveness of the process. Task interdependence. When a person or unit is dependent on another person for resources or information to get work done, communication needs increase. There are 3 types of interdependence. Pooled, when employees work independently and their output is combined. Sequential, when tasks are performed in a certain order. And reciprocal, requires constant communication and mutual adjustment for task completion. This creates the highest potential for conflict. Barriers to effective communication. These are some of the most common barriers that can interfere with the accurate communication of a message. Selective perception. People tend to not hear things they don't want to hear, and to hear things consistent with what they already believe. It occurs when we selectively interpret what we see based on our interests, expectations, experience, and attitudes, rather than on how things really are. Misperception occurs when a message isn't decoded by the receiver the way the sender intended. Filtering occurs when people receive less than the full amount of information due to withholding, ignoring, or distorting of information. Information overload is when the amount of information available exceeds our ability to process it. We have to use some sort of filtering strategy to reduce it to a manageable amount. Effective filtering amplifies relevant and accurate information. Organizational barriers come from the hierarchical structure and culture of the organization. Numerous levels or department specializations can make communication across the levels and departments difficult. Some organizational cultures encourage open communication, while others promote a limited sharing of information. Cultural barriers. Words or gestures can mean different things in different cultures. Low context cultures rely on words to convey meaning. High context cultures rely on nonverbal or situational cues or things other than words to convey meaning. Noise. Again, anything that blocks, distorts, or changes in any way the information the sender intended to communicate. Some of the most common sources of noise are interruptions, loss of transmission, ambiguity, jargon, and semantics. Communication skills. Communicating effectively is an important managerial skill and critical for effective leadership. There are many barriers beyond your control, but improving your communication skills can help to overcome these barriers. Listening skills. Listening is an active search for meaning. It requires concentration. It requires the receiver to tune out noise and to concentrate on the message. Suggestions for being a good listener are to pay close attention, give the speaker clear nonverbal evidence that you are listening, give the speaker clear verbal evidence that you are listening, show the speaker respect, and follow up on unusual or inconsistent communication. Writing skills. Effective business writing isn't just about grammar and punctuation. The style and tone have to be appropriate for the audience. It needs to be professional and direct, and often needs to be persuasive. Always proofread your communications. Guidelines for effective business writing are: write to express, not to impress, back up your assertions, write for your audience, edit and revise, format for readability, use graphic aids and pictures, and write with energy and conviction. Presentation skills. Managers need effective presentation skills to present proposals and to communicate with other managers and subordinates at once. It is perfectly normal to feel nervous when you're about to make a presentation, even if you have a lot of experience. Suggestions for effective presentations are to speak up and clearly, quickly achieve rapport, channel nervous energy into an enthusiastic delivery, move freely and naturally without pacing, minimize notes and use them unobtrusively, highlight key ideas, watch the audience for signs of comprehension or misunderstanding, and end with a bang. Concluding words should be memorable. Meeting skills. In addition to wasting time and money, poorly led meetings are a source of frustration. Leading meetings requires skills in organizing, eliciting input from participants, and conflict management. Suggestions for running effective meetings are: have a good reason to meet in the first place, have an agenda that clearly states the purpose and key steps, ensure that participants receive the agenda in advance, be fully prepared, state a time frame at the beginning of the meeting and stick to it, require that participants come prepared to discuss the topics, keep participants focused on the agenda, and follow up on any outside assignments made. Communication media, the Internet. The Internet has fundamentally changed how managers communicate. They are now responsible for aligning information with business goals and acting as facilitators by bringing the right people together to solve problems as a collaborative community. Although technology should never replace all face-to-face interaction, it can help the communication process by giving leaders more choices. Collaboration software, also called groupware, enhances the collaborative abilities of a group or team members by providing an electronic meeting site. Essentially, it integrates work being done on a single project simultaneously by several users at different computers located anywhere in the world. Intranets, which are a type of centralized information clearinghouse. At its simplest, is a website stored on a computer connected to others by an internal network. Oral communication. Despite the speed and convenience of technology-based message channels, many promote one-way communication and decrease feedback. One expert advises people to use electronic communication only for transmitting and confirming simple information, and to have actual conversations for anything that could be sensitive. Communicating in person is important to building credibility and trust. Media richness. Communication media can be classified in terms of their richness, or the ability to carry nonverbal cues, provide rapid feedback, convey personality traits, and support the use of natural language. The richness of a medium depends on four things: interactivity, the ability to transmit multiple cues, language variety, and the personal focus. Face-to-face is the richest medium because it has the capacity for immediate feedback, carries multiple cues, and uses natural language. Organizational communication. It is the exchange among two or more individuals or groups in an organization that creates a common basis of understanding and feeling. It can move in a variety of directions and be formal or informal in nature. Downward communication occurs when higher level employees communicate to those at lower levels. Upward communication occurs when lower level employees communicate with those at higher levels. Horizontal communication occurs when those at the same level communicate, and diagonal communication occurs when employees communicate across departments and levels. Social networking. A social network is the set of relationships among people connected through friendship, family, work, or other ties. People form social networks in organizations that allow for exchange of information from one employee to another, or even people outside the company. These networks can be helpful by giving employees access to people who can help solve problems and get work done. They also have a potential downside. If employees and customers are satisfied, these networks can build loyalty. If not, employees and customers will communicate and amplify every complaint through these networks. Communication. Managers and employees use a variety of communication media. Managers should fit the media to the message, use appropriate body language and nonverbal cues, and ensure that subordinates understand the meaning of the messages sent. It is also a good idea to understand how employees like to be communicated with and seek feedback on how different communication channels are working.